This is the Death Row and Executions channel. Here is your host, Paco Rivera.
Welcome back to the Death Row and Executions channel. I am Paco Rivera. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more Death Row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. Also, check out my other channel here on YouTube called The Maximum Sentence, where I cover recent crimes and convictions. There will be a link for that as well. In 1994, John Timothy Edwards was an 18-year-old student at Florida State University in Tallahassee, Florida. During a break from school, John made arrangements with his sister, Pam, who was a 21-year-old senior at Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida, for a weekend camping trip. By late afternoon on February 18, 1994, a Friday, the two siblings met at Ocala National Forest and made their way to the very remote Hopkins Prairie campground. They had selected that location in Florida, the Ocala National Forest, because it was more or less a halfway point for each to drive to. While setting up camp, a man walked over, introducing himself as Kevin. We now know that this Kevin was actually, at the time, a 27-year-old drifter named Loran Cole, who was recently released from prison due to overcrowding. In February of 1992, a judge in Florida had sentenced Loran Cole to 5 years in prison for grand theft of a motor vehicle. He ended up serving 16 months and was released in June of 1993. At the campground, Cole, going by the false name of Kevin, offered to lend a hand and help John and his sister Pam set up their camp. The siblings were appreciative of Cole's help and thanked him as Cole left the area. But Loran Cole returned to John and Pam's campground later that Friday evening, this time accompanied by a 20-year-old drifter buddy named William Paul, who also gave a fake name when he introduced himself. At this point, they offered to help gather firewood for a campfire, and when that was completed, Cole suggested that they all go for a walk to a nearby pond to take pictures of the alligators. It was about 9:30 in the evening when the group began their journey across a dirt trail toward that pond. During the walk, one of the drifters said that he needed to go into the woods to urinate. The other drifter then followed him into the woods as John and his sister Pam waited back on the trail. A short time later, Cole came out of the woods with a heavy stick and bashed John in the head. He then produced a knife and slashed John's throat. His sister Pam, terrified and in a panic, took off running and screaming. She made it about 40 yards when Loran Cole caught up to her. He subdued her and placed handcuffs on her. Her brother, John Edwards, who was 6'3" tall and athletic, was still alive. He got up and tried to rush over to his sister to help her, but the two men jumped on him and beat him mercilessly. The two men then left Edwards to die. He did eventually succumb to his injuries. Cole and Paul took Pam to their campsite, which was very near where the attack occurred. Obviously, it was all planned out. Pam would later say that she could hear her brother moaning in pain as she was being led away. The two men then had her remove all her clothing and forced her to sleep nude between them. During the night, Cole went back to where John Edwards lay on the ground to check on him. By this time, John was dead. Cole even sliced his neck several more times post-mortem to be sure that he doesn't get back up. He would then return to his campsite and tell Pam that her brother is tied up with ropes, but he's okay. The men had not violated Pam that night. The following morning, now Saturday, Cole told Pam that he was going to go take some food and water over to John. He later returned once again and assured Pam that her brother will be fine. During the day, that Saturday, Cole forced Pam to have S with her by promising her that he won't kill her and her brother if she agrees. Cole had indecently violated her twice that day. He told her that all he really wanted was their cars and money. Sometime about 6 o'clock that Saturday evening, the men decided that it was time to get out of there before they or the dead body were discovered. They used rope to tie Pam's head and hands to one tree and her feet to another tree. They used nails to secure the rope. Cole and Paul then stole John and Pam's car keys, wallets, money, and checkbooks and left in Pam's car, a 1991 Nissan Sentra. But a short time later, they hit a pothole and damaged the car and got stuck. They walked back to the campground and then took John's car, a 1991 Geo Metro convertible, and headed for the city of Ocala. They struck a deer in the forest while leaving, and William Paul would later tell authorities that Cole became very upset and sad about hitting the deer. Who can understand these criminals? He had no problem with slicing a human's neck open, but was sad about accidentally hurting a deer. By the following morning, now Sunday, Pam had managed to free herself from the ropes holding her to the trees. She tried looking for her brother John, but couldn't find him. She then made her way to a road and was able to flag down a vehicle that stopped to help the woman in distress. Pam provided full descriptions of both men, and police sketches were distributed to all police on patrol and the media. Interviews of other campers in the Ocala National Forest provided investigators with additional leads, and two campers, witnesses, were able to provide the investigators with the full real names of the perpetrators. On Monday at about 5:30 in the morning, police found John Edwards' Geo Metro parked outside an auto parts store in Ocala. And by this time, news of the manhunt for Loran Cole and William Paul were shown on TV with their pictures. A woman called police and told them that she had just seen them and provided police with a location. Cole and Paul were arrested that Monday. William Paul pleaded no contest to multiple charges regarding his involvement and is serving a life sentence with an opportunity for parole after 25 years. At the time this video is being made, Paul remains incarcerated at the Cross City Correctional Institution in Florida. So it appears, since it has been more than 25 years now, that he is being denied parole. Loran Cole took his case to trial about a year later. This is what he looked like by the time of that trial. And as we know, he was found guilty and sentenced to death. What is truly heartbreaking with this case is to know that as John and Pam were being attacked that day in the forest, as John was dying, he looked up at his sister Pam and said, I'm sorry, letting her know, as she would later testify, that he was sorry to have gotten her in that situation. And those were his last words, saying, I'm sorry to his sister. Please remember to hit the subscribe button for more death row and upcoming execution stories so that you are alerted when the next one comes out. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. I am Paco Rivera. Take care and Bye for now.